Today on the Brand Aid Podcast.
I found the biggest mistake that people would make in their marketing and thus in their business was that be so worried about what people would think and so worried about trying to attract everybody that they would not attract anyone that they wanted.
Welcome to Brand Aid, where we answer the question, what does it take to launch your own brand revolution, create evolution, and who are the people that help you foster connection, community, contribution, and currency for a brand built to last? You will also meet brands changing the world and the lives of those they serve. Here's your host, Cheryl Hodgson.
Lisa Cherney has been mentoring millionaire entrepreneurs for over 20 years. In 2014, after 15 years in business and speaking on over 750 stages, Lisa Cherney got effing real and dismantled her successful 7-figure business as the juicy marketing expert. Lisa learned that just because something is successful and people like it doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. She always knew she had a low tolerance for not being happy. After all, she left a successful corporate career with companies like AT&T and Lipton at age 28. Now Lisa knows her mission is to help soulful entrepreneurs, GFR, so they can get out of their own way, help more people, and make more money. She's the host of the groundbreaking confession-based Get Effin' Real podcast and creator of the 12 GFR Commandments. Please welcome Lisa Cherney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Hodgson. Welcome to the Brand Aid Podcast, our evolution. I am here today with Lisa Cherney, who is going to share with us some magical 12 mistakes people make. She's got some pretty good things to share with us. Welcome, Lisa.
I'm so glad to be here. This is awesome.
Well, let's dive right in. You have such an interesting background and you've been coaching and working with entrepreneurs for a very long time. And let's just get this right out there. I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you. It's a very authentic brand for me.
And exactly how do you pronounce it?
Well, I say it multiple ways. It depends. Do we have an explicit rating here? Can we say?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can say. I won't.
Well, it's GFR, the initials, and I always say that I really knew that I needed to help people get real so that they can get on with their mission. Except get real wasn't urgent enough, so I added an F in the middle.
Yeah, and so it's. So tell me, what's the focus of your podcast and the work you do in the world?
Yeah, so the focus of the GFR or Get Fucking Real podcast is to really highlight that struggle has a purpose for entrepreneurs. So we call it from confessions and successful, soulful entrepreneurs sharing straight talk. You know, that it's really to, like pull back the curtain and say, you know what, it may look easy. Like you see these people that look like they have shiny brands that are all together and the colors look great and everything, but that doesn't mean that it always looked that way. And there's often, if you look under the hood, there's often a quite a messy journey that I feel like is actually the most common experience that mission-driven entrepreneurs have. And so I decided, you know what, it's time to really highlight that. And so there's a ton of shows that highlight their expertise. Let's really highlight their messy journey so that people can be inspired that if they're struggling, that their struggle has a purpose.
Yeah. Well, so like in your experience, what have you found is the number one problem on the journey? I mean, there's a lot of them for sure, but I mean, there's the personal aspect, right? I mean, it's not always just the business challenge.
Exactly. In fact, I find the personal aspect, or if you want to call it personal, the inner aspect to be way more contributing to the entrepreneur's struggle than anything else, than anything external. Like, it's not that they didn't have the perfect formula or training or blueprint. It's that they got in their own way. And so, in fact, that's how the 12 GFR Commandments came about, because I was in kind of doing this retrospective of working with my clients for the last 20 years, thinking, how have I helped them? You know, what are the things that they come to me the most for? And it turned out to be 12 things, Cheryl. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like actually 12 things that I just say over and over and over again. Not that original, And those things became the 12 GFR Commandments. And each of the commandments has a question that really helps people dive in and say, hey, is this the thing that's holding me back right now? Is this the area that I need to get real? I call it the roadmap for getting real, and it increases the impact and your income because you're getting out of your own way. So there's 12 of them, and there actually isn't any order, but I can for sure share the most common ones or the things that, I find are the pivotal ones.
Yeah, well, no, we'll get into that. I mean, I just wanted to kind of respond to one of the things you said, because I was saying personal. I mean, I really think it's what is the buzzword these days? Emotional intelligence. That's one, but it's personal
inner game, self-talk.
Self-talk. Well, that one I resonate with, because I come from this, personal development, master's in spiritual psychology of, where one of the real basics is what are the stories we're telling ourselves? Really, if you get down to it, everything we say to ourselves is a story. We're talking to ourselves internally at some level. And, we have to learn to tell ourselves better stories.
That is for sure. Absolutely 100% agree.
Yeah. So what would you say if you had to pick one of your commandments? Which one would you say comes up the most?
I would say commandment number 3 comes up the most. And it goes like this. Don't worry about being normal, proper, or polite. And then the confession question that kind of helps you see if this one is for you, says, where am I not speaking my truth? And it goes to what you were just talking about our stories that we tell ourselves. And, my origin story, my first business was consciousmarketing.com back in the day when, the secret was still a secret and law of attraction wasn't, and every woman or man's, top tip of their tongue. But I knew that if you weren't authentic and kind of owned who you were and how you helped people in your marketing, if that didn't get translated, then you weren't going to attract the right people. I just knew that, somehow knew that. And that's how consciousmarketing.com came about. And that this is a legacy really for me, because I found the biggest mistake that people would make in their marketing and thus in their business was that be so worried about what people would think and so worried about trying to attract everybody that they would not attract anyone that they wanted. So don't worry about being normal, proper, or polite it's such a great application to marketing, to branding, but also like in your life, where are you not speaking your truth? And it all contributes to slowing down or speeding up the impact you're going to make.
Well, and it's not easy because I've had to go through my own journey, which is, I'm not going to get into here, but I relate to what you're saying because, and I'm still learning that issue of it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to be authentic, but then how do you translate that to your messaging and actually implement it?
Exactly. In fact, there's a question that I often give people that would really help them to do that if they wanted to. Should we share it?
Yes, absolutely.
So here's the question. If you could say anything in your marketing without any backlash or turning anyone off, what would you say?
Wow.
And to expand on that, I want y'all, the audience, to think about your soapbox. Like when you get really into it and you're super passionate about your thing, and maybe you're at a dinner party, maybe you had a couple drinks, I don't know. You could feel yourself, you could almost see the people's eyes gloss over, but you don't care because you're so into what you're talking about. That's the stuff that doesn't get in people's marketing because they edit themselves and they think,
Yes.
It's over the top, or I'm going to turn people off, or I'm going to get in trouble, those more regulated industries. And I feel like that really enormously dampens, the impact that people make. And also it waters down their brand. It waters down the juiciness of who they are.
Well, it's interesting, and we all relate to our own experiences when we filter information and hear it. But, I share this because it comes up for me in the fact that, I went to law school not knowing what a lawyer was, and I had no personal growth. I had a lot of religious upbringing, but I had no personal development skills or inner resources of how to nurture myself, self-care, deal with, hurts and all that stuff. How to be a human being.
You're the second lawyer to tell me this in 2 days. I just have to tell you.
So you mean I'm not the only one?
You're not.
Well, the old saying is Buddha. What's that famous saying? Buddha said the longest journey is from your head to your heart.
Absolutely.
And, I think it's not uncommon. I'm not just relating it to me, and I'm not saying all the lawyers are that way, but I think it's quite common. People tend to live in their heads, in their left brain, not the right brain, right? So there's a lack of feeling or connection to the emotional aspects, right? And so that alone because clients have said to me for years, once they get to know me, they're like, "You're not like most lawyers I've met."
What a great compliment.
I know, that's what I say. At first it used to make me nervous. I'm like, well, thank you. That's good. I'm doing something right, But, I think it's a powerful message for entrepreneurs because it's one thing to listen to The Secret, or it's one thing to go through a lot of self-help or personal development, but you actually have to sit down and do the work emotionally and to deal with what is it and uncover what it is within you that's holding you back.
Absolutely. Well, and that's why in my latest iteration of my mission, which is GFR, and not marketing or selling or leveraging your business or all the other things that I focused on for so many years, because I realized that if people were in their own way and they had stories that weren't serving them, or they weren't doing that inner work to get through it, to express the next level of their mission, they weren't going to take any of the other advice that I was giving. They weren't maximizing whatever other investment they made with me. And I've always enjoyed spending that time. In fact, consciousmarketing.com, the tagline was from the inside out, right? There's always this awareness that it has to start there. And so in my old age, I'm almost 50 and I've been doing this entrepreneur thing for 20 years. I said, you know what? I'm just going to live here in this space to help people get those breakthroughs, to see where they are in their own way in all the specific ways. And that's what the 12 GFR Commandments are about. Because I now see so clearly, Cheryl, the connection between our own healing journey and the expression of our mission-based work in the world. They are so closely tied together that when we're stuck somewhere personally, like say we're in the wrong relationship or living in the wrong place, it will slow down our mission. It just does. There's clogs in the pipe. There's insecurities that come up. There's incongruencies. And so that's what my mission is to help really illuminate that for people.
Gee, I wish I'd met you 10 years earlier, I've spent 10 years getting ready to launch.
I understand. I'm familiar with the degree that you have and the school that you went to, and that is some serious inner work.
But at the same time, it's amazing how even during this pandemic, and I didn't think, and this is not about me, but I think I just share this because in hopes that it kind of carries the importance of what you're sharing with the audience, which is, like even during this pandemic, I didn't feel like I had evolved as much as maybe, or come as far as I had, until I at least feel like I've had the real skills and the tools. And it doesn't mean my stuff doesn't come up. It does, right? But I now feel much more able to have self-talk, self-care, and ways in which I can listen to myself and go, wait a minute, this is not serving me. And is this real? No. This is not real.
Yes, it's not effing real. Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so, but then you go out into the world and you see people who are so fearful and so reacting at such a level. Oh my God, don't get too close to me, metaphorically and literally speaking. So that is the journey. And it's not, personal growth and personal development is not something that's talked about and shared in our education system. And I think now we're at a point, what we're facing, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Like, there's a lot of young people even who are going through, they're going through some emotional things. I mean, they're not in school, they're not with their friends. There's not, how do people navigate that crisis, you know, and those
Yes.
types of.
Well, I have a 14-year-old who was a freshman in high school, when she was pulled out and, told to go home and never to return again. And so I feel like I at least have, I have a glimpse into the front lines of a whole breadth of parenting, uh, I wanted to say another word, paradigms right now through my clients that have little kids and boys versus girls and teenagers, and then young adults that were out in the world, 25, 30, that are now back at home, sheltering in place when, they were all on their own. I mean, I have a whole, breadth of experiences in my personal world. And so absolutely 100%. It is, I'm calling it an initiation. And that may sound woo-woo, but I would even look at the unwoo-woo part of it, is like, it is an invitation. It is an initiation. It's like, how are we being called to evolve right now? That is the question that I keep putting out to leaders. Like, how are we being called to evolve right now? And it is, I think we can't ignore it. It's like we're put in a situation that we cannot ignore answering that question, because if we do, then we're in bed for a couple of days with the covers over our head, or if we do, we find we've eaten everything in the refrigerator, or we've binged on Netflix for 24 hours, or fill in the blank of whatever addiction or coping mechanism that maybe we've dabbled in, but now it's or the opposite of, we're confronted it and we're actually more healthy than we ever have because we're sleeping more and we can meditate and do all the things. So I think it's a beautiful initiation and an invitation.
Well, and I think that carries through in a very broad way, and hopefully for people, because I know one of the things is, that I had to come to in my own journey, is the way of thinking is, none of us can control it to some. We can make choices, some are better than others, but ultimately, none of us could control the virus and the impact and it's having on everyone on a global basis. I mean, who could have imagined that? And, so the only thing we can do in any negative situation, I mean, people are going to have death, they're going to have illness, whatever it is, they're going to have divorces, they're going to have emotional challenges. When we go through those life experiences, the only opportunity we have is, how are we going to be with ourselves as we go through the experience? Because we can't control what happened. The only thing we can possibly control is our response.
Absolutely. And as a mentor of entrepreneurs, and that are, that I'm on the front lines with right now, it's really interesting to see how they are controlling, whether they're getting clients or not, or maybe this is a time for me to create that course. I mean, this is a lot of people are creating that. They're in creation mode, right? That is a very generative, life-giving thing to create. And so I'm finding that people are using this time for that. And it's just, it is like, how am I going to set aside the fears and the worries and the future thinking and all this stuff, and just really check into how am I supposed to show up right now? People I believe are overusing the word pivot. I posted on Facebook the other day with a little vomit emoji, because I'm so sick of that word, because I feel like in the way it's being shared, it's encouraging people to act quickly, to figure out, which are very forceful words, right? Act quickly to figure out, how they're supposed to show up. And I think it's much more of an organic, go inside, see what's bubbling up for you process.
I agree. Yeah. And the other one for me is, if I see one more email where it's a brand sending me something that starts of, our COVID-19 plan, or how they're,
Right.
It's enough already. Okay. So, well, let's move on to some more fun stuff, right?
Okay, let's do it.
But before we do, you did, and I don't know if this is fun or unfun, but it connects to something you said earlier about, one of your GFRs, which is, you blew up a business of your own that was quite successful, right?
I did. In 2014, I had a 7-figure business. I had reached the 7-figure mark the year prior, and I realized that I was really not having fun. And I have a low tolerance for not feeling good, and which I think is like my best credential ever so far in my life, right? Because I don't go to that unconscious, I kind of gave up on my vices and I can't go to that place where I'm just tolerating it. And I felt out of integrity, my words, or out of alignment, because I was teaching people how to create businesses they love and I wasn't having fun. And I had 100 people in a year-long program called Six Figure University and another couple hundred in my, my conscious marketing, programs. And I just decided to stop. And that's one of my GFR commandments now, is know that sometimes stopping is the most lucrative action to take. And that confession question is where do I need to pause or stop and have it because of fear, which of course is very relevant right now, right? And being so worried about stopping, because of money or whatever, that's the most common story. And that's where I was, it was terrifying. And I didn't know what I was going to do instead, and now when I counsel people come to me, very visible people come to me privately and say like, I freaking hate my business. What do I do? Just confessing that is so powerful. You don't need to know exactly what you're going to do, but once you confess it, it often will it does reveal itself, how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. But that's my best credential for my GFR mission now, is that I GFR'd and I.
How long did it take you to work through that? I mean, there must
about
have
a year
been
and a half. Yeah. But at the time that I decided, I actually had a big event planned. Like I think it was March or April that I made the decision. I had a big event planned that November. And of course, we all know that are in this training business that if you don't make an upsell or an offer at that event, you're probably going to take a bath, And so I said, okay, I'll do a 6 month instead of a year. I'm going to do 6 months. So that way I had my year-long people I had just enrolled in my 6 months. And so I had to figure all that stuff out. And it took me about a year and a half before I'd really divested myself of all of the things and closed all of the programs, which I wasn't clear. I was at the time that I was actually going to close everything, but that's what I wound up doing, because what wound up appearing was a business partnership that I was able to get back into, that felt like I was going to grow if I went back in. But when I left the first time, it felt like I was going to grow to leave. And so that was all in divine order. And I did that for 5 years until I felt like something new was emerging. There was a voice within me that, needed a platform and something I was supposed to be saying in a bigger way in the world. And thus the GFR mission was born.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of guts and courage. But at the same time, did you feel a sense of relief afterwards, or do you have a sense of energy? Yes, I've made the right decision.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a membership program that's a really easy entry called the GFR Squad. And we have a confession culture, because once you confessions come through your mind like one of those, ticker tape type message boards. Yes. And most of the time when it's even bigger little confessions, the first time it comes through, it just flies through. Like you barely even notice. And then might slow down. And then one day it'll stop. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is not the relationship I need to be in. This business partnership it's time. I need to, and things start to drop in. And so to have a place like the GFR Squad where there's a culture that is just all about speaking your truth, even if it's like, oh, I'm $40,000 in debt, or, I'm being audited and I'm terrified, or, I hate my clients, right? It's like, okay, great. Right? It's a terrible thing to say, but like, what do you do? It's like you're screaming into a void if you are unhappy in your situation and you're worried about admitting it. And so in the GFR Squad, it's not about having the perfect juicy, or I used to call it juicy 30-second introduction or elevator pitch, or, being all spiffy and shiny. It really is about what is the thing that I need to speak my truth about so that I can evolve.
Whether you are CEO of your own evolving brand, or you are serving as guide and mentor to other emerging brand owners, it's important to include legal protection for valuable brand assets. Brand names and logos, as well as other intellectual property, are often the most valuable business assets a company will ever own. Registered trademarks for product names, logos, and slogans are a potent weapon against domain hijackers, cyber squatters, as well as other later entrants into the market. In my international best-selling book, Registered Trademark, The Business Owner's Guide to Brand Protection, I reveal my simple 3-step process to help select, secure, and sustained protection for your own brand dream team. And I'll share how to bulletproof your business both online and off. As my special gift to our listeners, you can receive a free copy of my book. Simply go to brandaid.com/free gift to receive your copy today, and you'll pay only for shipping and handling.
You also talk about not being afraid to repel people. And I think that's really an interesting point and very important.
Yes, it is super important. That's why I love commandment number 3. Don't worry about being normal, proper, polite, because, and obviously I'm walking my talk here with the GFR brand. And trust me, I had plenty of smart, well-meaning people tell me I shouldn't put the F word in my brand. Looks like you're trying too hard, or you're going to definitely turn people off, that maybe you need to be helping, and maybe you should, put that further down. Don't put it up front. And, it was almost like a rite of passage, Cheryl, that I had to go through, like a gauntlet of people trying to keep me from doing the thing, and me kind of learning to stand in my power and really, yes, it is authentic to me, in fact. And everybody that's ever worked with me was like, oh my God, it's so you. It was people that didn't really know me that well, right? And so, I'm a really huge advocate for being authentic in your market, figuring out what that actually even means for you.
Well, and does it also tie into when you talk about repelling someone? I've heard this several coaching episodes with people who say, don't be afraid to say, look, if this isn't for everybody, whatever I'm offering or who I am or my program isn't for everyone. If you're not in this place or looking to do this, I may not be the right fit for you.
I think that can get convoluted and feel a little salesy sometimes, as like a part of the formula. This is not for you if you're not ready for big change, and you're not ready to go the distance, and this is not for you if you like staying still. And it's like,
that's what I like about you, Lisa. You're being authentic.
Right? It's like, that's manipulative. Okay. I think that when you're upfront in your marketing, or in your marketing is such an ambiguous word, like your Facebook lives or your blogs or your emails or your Instagram, however you're expressing. If you at that point A are, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to stand on my soapbox. I'm going to say the things that I really want to say, because I really want to help people. And if I don't say things, it's like a frequency. It's a radio frequency. I'm not dialing in to the people, tuning into the people that I actually want to help. So don't wait till you're making your offer and who this is not for. And, that part of a formulaic approach, it's like upfront, be that person, say the things, and then you will naturally repel people that don't like the F word, and that's okay.
Right. Exactly. Well, a thought that has even come up for me is, I've now, one of my missions is sharing with entrepreneurs, because I just, as a lawyer, it's driven me crazy that I see clients over the years who've gotten into problems and sued or lost their rights, because they just didn't know what they didn't know. None of us knows what they didn't know. And I actually had an attorney say to me the other day, was like, when I found out I was doing these Facebook lives for free, it's like, well, you don't tell them everything. You don't want to give away all your information. And I'm like, well, yeah, but, hopefully it's going to help them build a better business, and I'm making a contribution. And if they do need help along the way, they know I'm here,
Right.
and so I don't, so I understand that. It's like, that's part of being authentic to me, and
exactly.
being
Exactly. And there's something I've been talking about lately. I call it unmentoring. And I feel like there's a season we get into as an entrepreneur where it's not about taking somebody else's system and applying those things. It really is about, in an unmentoring space, going, what I've been taught, invested in, what really resonates with me? How do I want to go about doing this? So I love that you're feeling inclined to give away good stuff, because that's you, and that feels good to you, and it's going to serve, and what it's going to get you clients. The restrictiveness or the manipulative approaches, or the things where you're fast action discount, I'm kind of over it as well. Like, go ahead, take a week to think about it. And if you can't stay in your yes for a week, I don't want to work with you. So it's like a completely, anti everything that people are taught about needing to, get them while it's hot, kind of thing. So,
well, I actually say almost every new client consultation at some point now, I say, look, I'm not a one night stand. I'm a relationship. And, I really, it's somewhat overused, but I'm not a transaction. I'm really because it's not what I want either, know?
Well, and that is actually the key point, is that you don't want that. So you're not just saying that because it sounds good for the other person. You're claiming like, hey, I don't like to just work with people on a short-term basis. That's not how I like to be in relationship as a lawyer. So, this is how I work. And it's such a powerful thing. And then people go, yeah, that works for me, or no, that doesn't work for me. But you're speaking your truth, not being a manipulator.
Yeah. And it's, there's two sides to every coin, because, finding a great lawyer is not easy. And there's, good and bad and everything. Same as a doctor. Bad hair. I've had bad haircuts. So, it's finding someone that works for you. But, when the first words are, somebody will send me a cold email that I've never spoken with before. And they go, well, how much would you charge me to do this? I'm like, well, I don't even know what it is you want to do. How can I possibly tell you how much it's going to cost? Right.
And I bet a younger version of you would have replied with a price.
Absolutely. I did for many years, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
But it became so painful for me because it became painful for me to work with people like that.
Yes. Yes. Back in my conscious marketing days, I talked a ton about claiming your ideal client. I think even before people were using that as a common sort of like, other thing than niche is your ideal client, which to me are completely different things, but don't let me go on that soapbox. But
why not? We have more than one soapbox here.
Oh, for sure. I say ditch your niche. That's my little soapbox for that, because that is a quick and dirty decision because someone told you to pick something, or that you need to only do one thing. And it's really not an inside out approach. It is an externally motivated narrowing down, and it doesn't resonate with you. So you need to ditch it and really claim who your ideal client is, who you're supposed to be working with, who you feel called to work with. And then what do they need to hear from you, in your marketing. So I love that, because you're claiming your ideal client when you do that.
Yeah, well, and I've gone through that a bit with I wrote a book that's a very entry level book, and that is for an entry level market, which is not necessarily, it's my give back, but it's to really for people who are being misled and deceived in the market on a very specific issue. But that's not necessarily my ideal client, and so I've even that's to a certain extent had some pigeonhole. I felt a little bit pigeonholed by it, but I'm clear about that, and I'm like, no, this is only the beginning. I'm moving on to other things.
Yeah, and when I always say, when people want to work more closely with me, this is who I enjoy working with. I love having my GFR podcast. I love it because I love having a free thing that you can access anytime, anywhere. You can get to know me and my philosophy. There's about 6 episodes that that are just me. And I love that, and then I have the GFR Commandments, which we're going to give everybody, a link for, because if you want to go a little bit deeper in sort of my philosophy and have a tool to use, then you opt in, right? You get that closer relationship. GFR Squad, it's $20 a month. It's like the easiest 200 for the year. It's the easiest thing to be in relationship with you. There's a little step along the way, right? And then if you want to mentor with me, whole nother ball game, whole nother person, whole nother period of time that they're in, a different level of readiness.
Oh, it sounds phenomenal. So what is the GFR Squad? I love that name. That's great.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. When I decided to do the show, I said I need to have community around it for people that get so activated by it that they want to have a container where this is what we're doing. So every month, people that are in the GFR Squad, every month we do a call with one of the commandments as a theme, right? So let's see, I think this one is, I think this month's number 9. Know that if you have a specific mission or calling, there are people who need it. And then that confession question is, if my mission was guaranteed to make money, what would I do? And so
Ooh.
we get together and we focus on the actual confession question for each of the commandments, and we have really authentic, beautiful conversations. Some people don't share. That's okay. Like some people come into the GFR squad because they really are attracted to the idea of being real, but they're not really ready, and that's totally okay. And then every guest does bonus trainings, and then I'm in there GFRing all the time. So if you want to be around me more, that's where I hang out. And and I want people to have skin in the game. So it's not a free Facebook group, which are popping up, like by the dozens right now. It's just a little teeny skin in the game, and you get swag and a button and a sticker and, the whole thing. And it's a place to just make a small commitment to say, you know what, I want more of this in my life. I want to seek more authenticity. I want to be unapologetic in my life. And this is a good place to start, is that GFR
Oh,
squad.
phenomenal. Well, I'm going to check it out.
Yay.
And the thing is that you hit on something very important, because, the title of my show is Brand Aid, Our Evolution. And my reason for that title is that it's like, I feel like anybody who builds a successful brand, whether it's first product or service, is that you're creating some sort of either revolution or evolution within a market or within a niche. You're helping things evolve. And in order to do that in today's world, it's really about that community and connection, because it ties into your whole thing about being authentic and getting real, right?
Exactly.
People need to get to know who you are, and people also need to relate to what you're selling, right? So that community aspect. And so does that serve as great community for your tribe?
It really does. It's fun to see. Like somebody did went in there. You can go live in there if you want, because you're having a moment where you're confessing. And I had someone the other day confess that when all this that's dealing with money worries, and they are a money expert, so that's where her healing is. Right? There's no accidents,
Right.
and so where do you confess that you're having a challenge around money when you're a money expert? Nowhere, because you're afraid you're going to be judged, your clients are going to see you or whatever.
Right.
And she shared that she had taken a bunch of advanced out on her credit card cash in the panic of this whole thing, that she needed to have cash. And so she went to the bank and she took advances out on her credit. And in her confession in the GFR squad, she said, I'm going to bring the money back to the bank, because that was just insane. I'm sobering up, and like, where else can you share that? And I just love, like, it's so freaking real. And people sharing about all different kinds of things. And of course, I'm real. I share about my challenges with food and my weight. I shared parenting challenges. I shared, about sex and relationships. And so that it's really no topic is off limits, because of our personal healing and evolution so closely aligned with our business evolution, that if we are stuck in even if it looks unrelated, it is related.
Right. And it's what's interesting about that is you don't ever arrive at a destination. You do transcend certain things, but it's going to come up, right? Something's going to trigger you, and it could be something from years ago that suddenly reappears. Where did that come from?
Right. And I think that that we are triggered and we are being invited, like we are now, to look at stuff that we thought was done, which is happening a lot. We are going to use that in our work with people, like that is serving us. And then, oh, it's a new module. It could be as linear as, oh, this is a new module in my program now, because I just had to like go through this thing and break through. And now I can see it's actually missing in my work. Or it could be more subtle, oh, I just now have an awareness. I can relate to people at a different level.
Oh, that inspires me. So thank you for kind of sharing that. That's really good for me, because I had kind of a weird thing just in the middle of the night. I woke up at 3:00 this morning, and it was like,
that's the hour, 3 a.m.
my mom has been passed for over 40 years. And it was like, it wasn't her there talking to me. I was actually experiencing her pain from what happened as a childhood. And I was disregarding it, and I'm like, whoa. And I was really kind of shaken. And I'm not that easily shaken anymore. And and I'm like, where is this coming from? But then I kind of like, oh, there's some message here. I think I better I better like look at this a little deeper, and see where it
Yes.
fits in.
And
So
I
that's
love that question though. There's a message here. Like where is the message here? And I think we could apply that to so many experiences that we're having,
yeah,
whether it's, being woken up at night and, or something coming to us in our meditation or, whatever. It's like, what is the message for me here? It's such a great inquiry.
yeah, that's a great one. Well, let me ask you something completely off topic.
Okay.
What is there something about you that people don't know that they'd be surprised to learn about you?
It's such a great question. And I have to I'm so freaking transparent. But I could think of something that maybe, that I've shared, but is not as widely known. Let's see. Well, here's a couple of juicy things that I think help people. One was in my 20s and early 30s, I was in a 12-step program for compulsive overeating, so eating disorder, which was my spiritual gateway. I didn't know nothing from God before that. I didn't know anything about my intuition before that. I'm like the most, intuitive guide person that I'm now. It was a huge awakening for me. And it's been a lifelong journey of food and weight and diet. And now with the pandemic, of course, it's interesting to watch. And the transformation has been huge for me to love my body and then translating that into feeling attractive and my sexuality. And that's, I do talk fairly openly about it, but I don't have a lot of venues that call for that. If you listen to my show, there's a whole episode, actually episode 11, that I talk a lot about it. And I talk about how it's impacted my business because again, our own personal healing is directly related, my presence on stage and, how I'm able to be in relationship with people that I'm mentoring that are either have products or services that are related to that or in their own journey, their own body is holding them back from, their mission.
Yeah.
So I think that might help a lot of people right now just to.
I think that, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Because we've all got that, right? And it's all, but it's, you certainly transcended that.
I feel very healed in this area. I feel really, really healed. I have a curvy figure that I love. It's a little bit smaller than it was a few years ago, but a few years ago was when I really just said, you know what, this is it. This is my body. I am not athletic build, wherever the titles are. I have a curvy body. My daughter has a completely different shape than me. And we talk about that. Like, she doesn't have my body type, she looks more like my mother-in-law, than me, and it's to be able to give girls and young women, self-acceptance. And she's a dancer. Like I would say one of my top accomplishments is holding a space for her to have a healthy relationship around her food, around her body and food and exercise. Like I'm so grateful that I was able to accomplish that. Because as a woman, it took me, till I was 40, till I had any hint of that for myself.
Well, I don't think it's unusual for women. I mean, I went through my own version of that, because unfortunately our society, we grew up from the time we're little girls with these images of what it means to be beautiful or sexy. And, most of those images involve people that we're not,
Yes.
And it doesn't mean they're not beautiful people, but that's not. And also then there's another aspect of, I don't know if this comes into it, which is, there's an orientation of thinking of ourselves as if I'm just, and when we're younger, for sure, we're in that space. I was anyway. It's like, oh, I have to look good, dress perfect. Everything has to be just right. And, I was like impossible to be around probably in my first
And that's
marriage.
even without social media. You weren't even being started with images and social media, just, magazines.
Right. I mean, but I have to dress perfect and my office has it's the image, you know what I mean? Of what life is supposed to be, right? When in fact, as you said, it's not real necessarily. It's not all perfect, right? Underneath it all. And that's a huge weight to carry around, isn't it? To try to really spend your whole life being perfect.
It really is. How much my thoughts would be consumed by either what I was going to eat, when I was going to exercise, or what my body looked like was like 99% of what I was thinking about. It was enormously torturing.
Yeah. And then, but if there's just a slight shift, which again, is not something you hear talked about that often, which is that, you know, we already are a spirit. If you believe in that, it's not a religious comment. But if you believe that we have a soul and we have some sort of spiritual component to our being, it was very freeing for me when the orientation shifted that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. The body I'm in is the gift I've been given in which to have this human experience. You know, I'm more than this body that I'm in, you know? And that gives me a home base to come back to.
I love that. And I would add that I am in the perfect body that I need to be in right now to serve me at my highest purpose. So I really got to a place, thank you, Oprah Winfrey, I love you, you know, where I really got clear that I was in the body that I was supposed to be in, you know, at whatever given time to represent whatever mission or to relate to people in a certain way, or, you know, that was the container that I was best in.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's a great way to look at it. Well, is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd love to share with the audience?
Oh my gosh, so much. Do we have another couple hours? Well, I'm having so much fun.
Well, we can always have part 2.
Yes. Well, I love
back again.
I love your whole, you know, revolution equals evolution. And I love that you're having these conversations about brand, because I think it is such a lofty, overused, ambiguous reference and can be very inauthentic. Oh, I'm off brand, I'm on brand, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to encourage people to, and by saying that if you are unapologetically you, that's your brand. Right? That it doesn't need to be yes, there are people who are experts at it, and I don't want to diminish their branding expertise at all, but just to know, like, people would say, I used to have a brand called Juicy Marketing, and people would say, I'm just not juicy, I'm an accountant, or I sell carpet. And I'm like, no, it's not about needing to be juicy. It's just about being you. And I believe when people are themselves, they're so freaking interesting. And your story was whatever you've been through, it is absolutely on brand for you. That's a great thing to say, right? Whatever you've been through, it's on brand for you. And that's what people will benefit from. If you're willing to be vulnerable and transparent and authentic and unapologetic, I believe that just being you will serve people.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough. And before we leave, I know you have something to share with our audience, so maybe you could let them know where they can reach you in order to work with you.
Sure. Well, I would love for them to grab their own copy of the 12 GFR Commandments, the roadmap for getting real. And when you do, I give you a 2-minute process that you could use just to figure out which one of these things is like the linchpin for you that could really be holding you back right now. So you can go grab those at gfr.life/12C. So 1, 2, like the number, and C for commandments. And then if you'd like to join us in the squad, go to gfr.life/squad. And super low investment. I thought I was going to raise it, but I'm not. But I would love to have you in there. It's a really good time to be in a container where you can be real
and be supported, right? You know, and have and be safe. So, well, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you for joining me on the podcast, and I've looked forward to this for a long time, seriously. And I look forward to having you back again soon. I will cover that other part that we didn't get to.
I would love that.
So anyway, thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Lisa Cherney is host of the Get Effin' Real podcast and a coach and trainer for millionaire entrepreneurs. You can also check out Lisa's squad at gfr.life.squad.
Have you protected your big ideas? Is your online business built on a strong legal and business foundation? To learn more about the legal protection you need for your online business and how to use intellectual property to leverage the growth and profitability of your business, check out our new mini-sode series, Built to Last. I'll be sharing what I've learned during my business and legal career and how you can use those lessons to build a lasting legacy for your own business. So join me for my solo flight on the Brand Aid Built to Last minisodes.
That's it for today's episode. Head on over to brandaidpodcast.com and subscribe to the show. When you subscribe, you'll instantly receive Cheryl's free special gift, Consumer Guide to Trademark Registration Services. This consumer guide will help ensure your most valuable business assets are entrusted to professionals. Make certain you're on the path to a business and brand built to last. Join our Brand-Aid community on the Podopolo mobile app to win prizes, products, and cool free resources to help you grow your business. And also connect with Cheryl and your friends. Podopolo is free on the Apple and Google App Stores. And when you go to brandaidpodcast.com/win and post a review to iTunes, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a once-in-a-lifetime VIP Brand-Aid opportunity to mastermind with Cheryl personally to grow and scale your business, or to select, secure, and sustain a valuable brand name for your business. That's Podopolo on the Apple and Google App Stores. Download it now.